like a circle in a spiral, like a wheel within a wheel, never ending or beginning, like the circles that you find in the windmills of your mind.
Visit StogieGeeks.com/debonair for a list of retailers who carry debonair cigars. Buy some today and get a little more debonair. Welcome back, everyone, to the Stogie Geeks Show. Just myself, Paul Asadorian, and Mr. Will Cooper on the lines via Skype, and we're talking about how to properly touch up a cigar.
Yeah, before we do, I just want to mention one quick thing, and you may have seen the news today, but Mr. Phil Zengi and Debonair House have entered into a distribution agreement with Drew Estate. So what you'll basically be seeing is the Drew Estate sales teams will start carrying the Debonair products. They'll be helping out with some of the back-end logistics stuff, but Phil will still be making Debonair, and he's still going to be rocking and rolling. So we'll probably be hearing more about this in the next few weeks, and Phil will be on next month probably to talk more about that. So that's some exciting news for Phil.
Positive thing for both companies.
It's a great move.
Great move. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I think we'll talk more about that, I think, on Stogie Geeks News as well. So
Absolutely.
Stay tuned on that. Yep. But let's get into this, I guess, touching up a cigar.
You know, it's kind of interesting, Will, that we're talking about this because as I lit up I don't like to think about how many cigars I had today. It's quite a few. But my Arturo Fuente Añejo number 50 is the Robusto. I get that right?
Yes.
Okay. And when I lit it up, my main lighter was kind of running out of fluid. And I had like just enough fluid to get my cigar lit all the way. And a lot of times us as cigar smokers, we kind of have anxiety like, well, I got my cigar lit, but like, what if it needs a touch up throughout the cigar? You know, like I don't have a lighter to do that. And should I need to touch up my cigar after I light it? And I want to turn it over to you, Will, to see, I don't know if you and I have ever talked about like, what is the need to touch up a cigar? Should it exist? How does it exist? And things like that.
Yeah, the answer is typically a cigar will need to be touched up. I mean, there's two I say scenarios. One is it's burning uneven, and we can get into that a little. The others is sometimes it's a cosmetic thing.
Yeah.
Where your burn line, and I have an example here with this one, not very pretty, but the burn's fine. And basically, if I just kind of tap this with the lighter a bit, it will fix it, and it will go on. But it's those cosmetic ones which I find you got to be a little careful with because
you don't want to torch it too much. Like what you just did there on camera, Will, I thought was a great example of like a cosmetic thing. Like, it's not burning quite evenly, so I'm just going to hit it like a tiny bit, and then it's burning fine. But you don't want to go overboard.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm a 2-lighter guy. I use the triple flame for starting up, and then I'll keep a single one right here, where single one to touch up. And I find that's especially when you get into delicate wrappers like Connecticut Shaded Cameroon, where you hit that, you really got to almost like gently. I mean, hit that. You don't want to.
Even still, Will, I think even a lot of thicker wrappers like a Connecticut Shade, not a Connecticut Shade, but a Connecticut Broadleaf, will require some touch-up because it's so oily that wrapper is not burning.
Yeah, and it's thicker.
That's another example where you might need to touch up that wrapper. And the thing for me, and I've been studying for Tobacconist University, and they actually have a section in the study materials about touching up. And what Jorge says in his materials is like basically sums it up as like, don't go overboard. Right. Because like the more you torch that cigar, the more you're burning the oils off of that cigar, and you can certainly affect in a negative way the flavors of that cigar. So be very, very careful with your touch-ups.
Absolutely. And when it's uneven, Dave Garofalo on his show talked about a very interesting way to kind of work with an uneven cigar, and that can happen sometimes because of the Lajero placement.
Mm-hmm.
But he recommended actually, if it's a little uneven, the place where it's burning a little more rapidly, moisten it just a little bit on your cigar.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I've had it work. It's worked well.
Yeah, it has. It's good advice. I'm not saying it's bad advice. Dave always has great advice. He's extremely knowledgeable in the cigar industry, and I respect Dave. I think sometimes you're trying to maybe overcompensate for a poorly constructed cigar.
Well, right,
and not so much construction, right, but like leaf placement, so to speak. Like if you ever had what do you call that, Will? You have a name for it when like one of the binder or filler tobaccos burns a little hotter and pokes a hole through beyond the burn. Mouse hole in your cigar. That's leaf placement. It was wrong on that cigar.
Totally.
And you don't want to torch it. You just kind of want to let that be. And I have seen with you wet one side of the cigar, prevent it from burning too hot, or you torch the other side of the cigar to get it burning a little more. It's been met with mixed success in my opinion. I think a well-constructed cigar, those methods will work well, as Dave suggested, as we've suggested to kind of help it catch up. The problem is if that cigar is canoeing like that, and one side is just burning way faster than the other, I've had some cigars where you're just constantly torching it to get it to catch up, and it never catches up.
No, and
then you're torching it too much, dude, and then you're ruining the flavor of the cigar.
And then that there's a certain point where you got to punt.
Right.
When it's a case like that, I mean, it's not gonna deliver.
For me, like a really great cigar, you probably don't have to touch up. And I think that what Stogie Santa and Mark Jr. instilled on me, because I was always the one to really reach for my lighter and touch it up at every little point. If it wasn't burning perfectly, I would go touch it up. And what they instilled on me was dude, have some patience with it. Yep. Let the cigar burn and then just smoke it and see how it does. And don't let it get too bad, but a well-constructed cigar will catch up with itself. And don't get impatient and start taking a torch to it if it starts to burn a little uneven. And I think that's really sound advice. That's my best advice when we talk about touching up a cigar. Let the cigar do its own kind of thing.
Yeah. And then, I would agree with you on that. The other thing I'll say is, and I've said it a lot, wind is the worst enemy of a cigar.
Oh, that's a totally different situation. I agree.
So when you're in a wind situation and you're touching it up, you're making it a lot worse because that wind is kind of affecting the combustion to begin with.
Right.
And now you're touching it up. Your cigar is going to taste like shit. There's just no way around.
And I find, Will, if it is really windy, if I'm on the boat or the dock and I'm fishing, or I'm on my deck and it's a windy day, I tend not to touch up that cigar.
No, that's what I'm saying.
I don't. I agree. In the car, though, if you come to a stoplight or you're in traffic and you're stopped, you might need to touch it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you're not in a fully outdoor environment, because that cigar is taking wind from a very directional, you know what I mean? It's coming in one direction, it might need a little touch up. And I've had success doing that. I find when I'm in the car, if I kind of keep rotating the cigar.
Yep. Yeah.
Kind of get in the habit of doing that in the car. If I'm smoking with the window open, again, I'm keeping the passenger window open, the driver's side window open in the front where I'm sitting, and the passenger side rear window open, right? So you're getting that air blowing across the car. I find my cigars will tend to burn uneven if I'm not conscious about, just turning it a little bit while I'm smoking, which can be hard because you're driving. There's a lot going on, right?
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to talk on the phone, smoke a cigar, and drive a car. Let's just throw that out there. Never mind texting. That's out the window regardless of whether you're having a cigar or not in the car. But if you're talking on the phone, like, don't do that when you're having a cigar. When you're having a cigar in the car, focus on driving and having your cigar. And you can do those both at the same time. But kind of keep in mind that when you get that window open, if it's not summertime, make sure that you're kind of turning that cigar.
Very important. Yeah. And in fact, I've turned cigars in a convertible and have had good success with it.
Excuse me.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, that's those in terms of, I would say you want to be real careful when it comes to wind, with folks like that, because it's I could find it's the worst enemy there.
I need a minute. Well, keep talking.
No problem. No, no problem. Yeah. So, as far as, like I said, my wife, for Stogie Geeks listen, she'll say, cigars, your high maintenance hobby, me with the 2 lighters, and I walk around with 2 lighters, but it's something that I really, like I said, I do not like touching up with a triple flame lighter, and it will have an effect with that.
Well, it tends to just char your whole cigar when you do that.
Like I said, it chars it, and that's why they make different flame lighters.
I mean, if you're super careful and you got a triple flame lighter and you push that cigar to the edge of it, yes. If you're in the car or another situation outside, the wind's going to blow that flame, or you're going to be in the car and you hit a bump and it's going to like light your whole wrapper on fire and char the whole thing. That's not good, dude.
Yeah.
So that I agree with your assessment. It's kind of funny, Paul Joyle and Stogie Santa. They make fun of me a little bit because every time I'm in the lounge over there, they're like, Paul, you bring 2 lighters all the time. I'm like, yeah, I bring a triple flame to light my cigar, and I bring a single flame if I need to make a touch up. And they're just laughing as to like how much of a cigar geek I am. Because I do that, but I'm like, that's really what you need to do. I'll tell you what, you don't need to spend a lot of money on a triple flame or a single flame lighter either to have a good quality one.
No, you don't. Now, touching up, another thing is touching up the middle of your cigar. So when you get sometimes a cone on that cigar after you ash, that's kind of a sign that the middle's burning cool. And the ends are burning hotter. So
I've also read, Will, that if it makes that cone shape, and this is from Tobacconist University. In fact, I was reading this the other day, that if you have that cone shape, you're smoking too fast.
Interesting.
I can see it. The cone shape is a relation to how fast you're smoking that cigar. And then you're smoking it too fast.
Yep. And I'll tell you this, and I'm not telling you to try it, but I've tried it. Put your finger on the middle of that cone. You won't burn yourself.
Yeah.
You won't burn yourself. I'm not saying to try, but I've done it just because I've heard this. And yeah, but I can see that as a product of smoking too fast. I can see that.
I think it's a combination of 2 factors. I think it's the construction of the cigar plays into it. I also think that it's the speed at which you're smoking. When you ash your cigar, I think it should fall off cleanly. That it should be a clean, straight, ash. And that means that you're smoking at the right speed and the cigar is well constructed.
Yeah. I mean, you'll get some cigars that just won't ash in chunks.
Yeah, it may flake. Yeah, cigars ash in different ways, but I think in a kind of, a perfect scenario, smoking at the right speed, smoking slow enough, and having a well-constructed cigar, that ash is going to fall off pretty evenly off of your cigar.
Yep.
And not require any touch-ups or relighting. And I'm not saying that happens all the time. I've had some greatly constructed cigars that I believe I've smoked at a right speed that after I ash, I'm like, wow, I'm not getting as much smoke as I was before. So I'll kind of brush off the rest of the ash, and I might very gently and very quickly relight it.
Yeah.
And there is some tar and residual negative effects that happen for that, but it recovers very quickly, and I think that's okay.
Yeah, no, that I agree.
And it doesn't hurt, and Phil Zangi taught me this, to gently blow out. And I tend to do that, especially after I tip the ash off the cigar. If I tip the ash off the cigar, I find the combustion isn't always as good. And so I'll blow out gently to kind of blow that junk out of the end of the cigar that might have accumulated. And then inhale. And I find a lot of times I don't have to relight it or touch it up after that.
Yeah.
Which I think is good advice.
I agree.
Any other suggestions as far as touching up? Never use a soft flame, I think, to relight or touch up.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. When I go down to Central America and I have those Bic lighters, and torture. I mean, because that's all you can't have. They don't have jet torches down there. And you're on the bus sometimes and that wind's coming in again.
It's terrible. And I think the soft flames, in large part, leave a flavor.
Oh, I do too. I mean, and
I
I'm not
agree.
talking soft flame like a JD DuPont, an ST DuPont, rather. I'm sorry, but
the higher end soft, like Zycar makes a soft flame that I thought was very good. That doesn't really leave that kind of like residual butane flavor.
Yeah,
because they don't burn as hot, right?
No, they don't burn as hot.
But the Bic lighters, I agree, they leave a residual.
I do too, and I think
even the matches too. Like relighting with a soft flame is not recommended.
No, and that's where with the matches, that's where the cedar spills, which they're a little more high maintenance, but they will get that sulfur off the match. So I think that will help a little. But again, it's not practical sometimes to touch up with a cedar spill, where you are. So you can't always do that.
Yeah, I think that it's not so much a touch up, right? But if you have to relight, having a good solid butane torch to relight is the way to go, because you don't have to spend as much time relighting it. When you I think when you light or relight with a soft flame, it takes more time, and that's just more time that there's a lot more burning process going on, and that can lead to a negative effect in your cigar.
Yep, I agree.
Alrighty, so I think what you can take away from this Debonaire Ideal, for me, is carry with you 2 lighters, both butane torch lighters, and you don't have to spend a lot of money on them. They don't have to be super high end.
Nope.
Carry one that's double, triple, quadruple flamed, 5 flame, whatever. A bigger lighter to light your cigars with that's more than 1 flame. And carry a single flame to do your touch-ups. I think the less time, the more of the story here, Will, the less time you spend lighting your cigar and the less time you spend touching it up, the better flavor experience you're going to have.
Yeah, don't worry if it's sometimes not the prettiest burn. That's what I'm kind of getting.
Yeah, and have some patience. Don't be so quick to go in and touch it up.
Yep.
I agree.
Yep.
Well, that concludes our Debonaire Ideal segment for this evening. Stay tuned. Our Stogies of the Week are coming up next.